Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to a brand new video with me, Fuzzball40. As always, if you're new around here, please consider subscribing down below. It'd be massively appreciated if you can comment down below. It does make a massive difference to the videos. And as always, if you can drop a like, try and aim for 75 likes on the video, it would make a massive, massive difference to me, to the channel. It's continuing to grow, which is absolutely amazing. I didn't know what to title this video, so straight away, get it out there. I'm not quitting YouTube. I have to make that clear. I'm not quitting YouTube. But those of you that watch this channel regularly will know that I recently took over as chief executive at a football club. I believe it's Step 7 is what they are. And yeah, the name was Ripley Village FC, and it was going to be, and it should have been, the most amazing project ever. So when we went in, I met up with the chairman and the secretary, basically my vision for what the club could be moving forward, and we want to take that club from what level it was at, get it up the leagues very, very quickly, but doing it in the right way by bringing in youth teams, because currently they don't really have a real functioning youth team, developing our own players, making sure that we were doing that, and doing football in the right way. Everything at the club had to be a meritocracy. So when I met with the chairman and secretary, I said that I'm not here for favourites. I've been around football for quite a long time, and it is important to me that the clubs that succeed are clubs that tend to do everything on the basis that the best players, the players that are playing the best, that are developing the best, that are training, that are doing all the right things, they're the ones that start. I've seen plenty of clubs struggle and fall apart when manager favourites are started, or like nephews, sons, all those sort of people are guaranteed starts. It's when a club goes wrong. It always happens, especially at this level, because a lot of the clubs at this level are run by families, and their son is a footballer, so he plays for them, or they're run like Ripley are by committees, so friends become managers, which is the case of Ripley, or friends come and play for the team because they've sort of convinced to come down. Now, that was one of the basic things that we set out at the beginning. It was all done on a meritocracy. It was also on the basis that everyone was on board with it. We all were pulling in the same direction. Everyone wanted the same thing to Ripley, and a lot of people did. Not everyone, but a lot of people did. And that is just the way football goes. You can't please everyone. So that was that. Things were going really well. There was significant investment from myself into the club, like significant investment. Every match day was costing me quite a bit of money because the club doesn't have any income, like any real income. The players are paying for it. Now at this level, it's quite rare for players to still be paying for paying for football. If that makes sense. Usually the clubs have got enough of an income. Ripley didn't. Reason being, Ripley don't own their own ground, which is a massive, massive sort of drawback. The bar that we paid out of a cricket club. The bar takings went only to the cricket club. So Ripley they didn't have a very, very good deal of it, and I think there was a level of naivety at the club in terms of the fact that they were worth more than that. They still are worth more than that. So no money was coming in. So I was paying for the referees. I was paying for whatever else was needed on the day. I was paying for hot food for the players after the game. It was 3 figures a game being paid for by me every single game, on top of significant 4-figure investment, 5-figure investment in the long term in things like equipment, all that sort of stuff to get this club basically just to the level that everyone else in the league was at. On top of that, that was a basic thing to get the club to the level. I then put in significant time to give them a social media presence, which you would have seen it increase. We built a matchday program, which would allow for sponsorship into the club. We put the highlights onto this channel before eventually aiming to give them their own channel. All of this so that there was no reliance upon me, upon any one member of that club. The club was self-sufficient. So it did not matter if the club is bigger than me, it's bigger than any committee member, it's bigger than any management. And that was what we set out to do, and it was going really well. At the time of recording this, there is a sponsorship deal for the kit next season to be provided for free of charge, including printing. There's a sponsorship deal for our filming and sort of like, I guess, all of our recording and live streaming that we eventually wanted to do. Loads of sponsorship deals are in play, okay? And the reason for that, without being blunt, is my hard work, but also the willingness of certain people within the club to change what we were doing and how we were doing it. And that was all put in play. However, when I'm signed for Ripley, we brought my brother in. Now, my brother was playing relatively consistently at the level above. I also brought down a very good goalkeeper because we didn't have one. And I brought in a left-back/left winger because he's a very, very good player that I know currently played for my team, but was too good for that level. So I said to him, go and try out there and see how it goes. Other players were brought in and came and gone. And in the first match, we sort of turned things around straight away, got a win. My brother played. It was consistently good. But over time, things started to get a bit iffy. The management weren't really engaging with me so much. The committee were really on board, but the management not so much. There was a period where I'd spoke to a committee about stuff going on because I was told by the committee that was what they would prefer, me to go directly to them. But was told by the management that I was basically betraying them by doing so, which wasn't ideal. It is what it is, but you can't get on with everyone at all times. But I think there was a relative level of we'll deal with each other for now perspective between myself and the management, and as long as they get results and as long as I'm doing my job, then no one can really complain. As long as we're all doing our job, no one can really complain. I even went as far as setting up a little tea hut at the games, right, that I manned myself, because then if I had to get someone else to do it, it would cost money. So I manned it myself, and it made like 10 quid, 15 quid a game. Like, it helped pay towards the referees or whatever it was. But that's how the level that I went to. I would move the goals myself, during the storm, the dugouts were sent flying. I'd be down there early to make sure it was done. I was working my backside off on all of it, and I didn't feel like I was getting it back from the management. But that's what that is. I said earlier on in this video, the major thing for me, though, was the meritocracy. I can deal with being mugged off. I can deal with having the piss taken out of me, no problem. What I won't deal with is a club that I'm a part of, that I'm putting all the hard work into, being one where football isn't being done in the right way. My brother basically was told by myself and numerous members of the committee to be patient. When he came down, he was told, you'll go straight into the first team because we need a centre-half. He went into the team, played left-back, in fact. We won the game, and then wasn't being given a chance. And he sort of said, well, why is that? Kept coming to me and committee members saying, well, actually, I'm being told I'm never going to play, basically. I'm not going to play. And we all told him, no, just they've said to us, you'll get your chance again, so just keep working hard, keep working hard. Admittedly, they gave him another chance in the first team, but they played him at right-back. Didn't have a great game. He is a 6'3" centre-back. Didn't play very well. By this point, Isaac had broken into the first team, was really, really good, but a few other players now had started to message me and say that they were unhappy with what was going on at the club and certain people being selected, more so than it was before. I spoke to a few reserve players who had said similar stuff to me, and stuff just started to not feel right for me, really not feel right for me. I ended up falling out with Sean a little bit, though, because he's my brother and I wasn't believing him and what he was saying. And then basically the management team, I guess, kept doing what they were doing. Results didn't really improve at all. They were decent. We sort of turned what would be deemed to be turning a corner compared to the results this season, but our form was still some of the worst in the league, bar maybe 2 or 3 teams. Anyway, in that period of time, Sean maybe naively went to a training session, and in that session he was sort of blanked and spoken to like in the wrong way. A couple of players noticed it and sort of said to him, I think you need to speak to your brother and speak to the committee about what's going on. What Sean decided to do was to record the next conversation he had because he got sick of being called a liar. So Sean recorded the conversation with the management, and in that conversation it was stated that Sean would have to play reserve football, even though he'd been brought down to play first team football and was good enough to. The team had played well with him in the team. He was told he'd have to play reserve team football and get multiple man of the match performances before he'd even be considered for the first team. They acknowledged that they basically lied to him when he came down in the first place. They then stated that there were players that were guaranteed a start for the team. No matter what happened, these players were guaranteed a start for the team. Now, if any of you are watching and want to try and claim different, I will make it clear what happened because I've got the recording. There were players that were guaranteed start in the Ripley first team, and that's not good enough to me. That's not acceptable. When you play football, it's supposed to be done on the basis that the best players at that moment in time play. To guarantee starts to players is akin to, in my opinion, rigging a football match, rigging a team. And it weren't one, it weren't two, it was a few players that were guaranteed starts. So Sean at that point was a bit like, what the hell? Like, I've come down and now I'm being told that actually I'm only fighting for one spot at centre-back because one of the players guaranteed a start was a centre-back. This didn't go well at all. It didn't go down well with me, with the committee, with anyone, and people were very angry about it. A few people were a bit annoyed at the way Sean went about it, and even myself, it wasn't the best way, but at the same time, if you're telling an 18-year-old continually that he's lying or embellishing stuff, eventually he's going to get annoyed and he's going to turn around and say, actually, here you go. So that happened, and we weren't happy about it. And as a committee, we spoke on numerous occasions about different things to do with it. And quite clearly, my position was clear. Results hadn't been good enough up to that point anyway. I, as a person, I am part of a project, and I cannot support that project if we allow management to do that. The club is run by the committee, and management saying there are guaranteed starts for any player is unacceptable in football. It is unacceptable. You shouldn't even have that conversation with a player, let alone it be proved, if that makes sense. So that had happened, and the committee members, a lot of them were were in agreement with me, and I won't say on my side because there's not really a side to take here, but were in agreement with me. Some less so. Not that they disagreed with what I was saying, but they were sort of cautious and worried about the club in the long term in terms of getting rid of management so close to the end of the season. Now, anyone that knows Ripley and watches it knows that we're very much in a relegation battle, and being blunt, very, very difficult to get out of. We've still got 2 games left now against very good teams. We had 2 games against the teams that were near us at the bottom. Since I've left, which I'll talk about in a second, they lost that game, and it's it's almost certain now that it'd be very difficult to get out of relegation. However, I had said that even if we go down to the committee, when we had these discussions about what we would do based upon this new information, I said I'm here for the long haul, but I can't be here for the long haul and convince sponsors and backers to get involved in the club with these managers involved, because they're going to ask questions like, what sort of club is it? I'm not going to lie to them at all. I'm not going to lie to them in any way, shape or form. These sponsors were in play no matter what league we were in. No matter what league we were in, they were buying into the project that I had set up, and eventually the aim was for everyone, including yourselves, to buy into Ripley FC, to buy into the club and become supporters of the club, because it is a brilliant, brilliant club full of brilliant people. As far as I was concerned, and the chairman was concerned and whatnot, the decision had been made to move on without the managers. We basically said we'll give it a go, and if we don't, it doesn't matter, because no one's bigger than the club. No one's going to be able to get around the club. And I refused to give an ultimatum to the club. At the time, I said to them, you guys make the decision that you think is right. I'll base my decision upon that. Doesn't mean I'm going, just have to base it upon that. As that happened, the chairman quit. Now, the chairman, Pete, is an absolute, he knows so much about football. Genuine, absolute gentleman, very nice guy, knows a lot about football. He quit in protest as to what was going on. Didn't like the way myself and Sean had been treated and other players had been treated, and quite clearly stated that he was unable to work with the current management. That's fact. It's not an opinion, that's fact. Once that happens, you would think that people are going, hang on, we've just lost our chairman. The decision then would seem to be made. It was, okay, we're going to move forward without them, and that's that. So I was like, brilliant, that's fine. Said to Sean, do not think this is changing anything. Said to Luke, who's the other guy that wasn't getting a chance, and a couple of others in the reserves, I said, all you guys have got to do is keep your head down in the reserves, let the team do what it's doing, and then fight for your spot. Next day I found out that the management were being kept on because the board didn't want to make it, or the committee didn't want to make it harder for us to get out of the relegation fight. Now, without being blunt, it was already next to impossible because, number one, we weren't playing the best players that we had at the time in the first team. Number two, results, we had to wait for a lot of very specific results to go our way to keep us up, basically. A lot of teams have a lot of games in hand on us and might be a point behind, or in the case of one team, they're 6 points ahead of us. It's next to impossible. We then found out, and I found out, and all you found this out, to be fair, that certain players had said that if we go down, they quit. Some of these players were players that had been guaranteed starts or were playing quite consistently, that they'd be leaving the club if we went down. Now, my belief is that if you get a club relegated, you help the club to get back up again. That's just how it is. But those players have a right to decide their futures. They do, 100%. But if we know that information and we know it's fact, then you don't start those players. If players are already jumping ship before we've even finished the relegation battle, you don't start those players. But again, I don't get involved in team selection. It's down to the management to do what they're doing. What I won't accept is that you're picking your best team. You can't pick your best mates. You have to pick your best team. So basically, the decision was changed by the committee at the last minute. I know some people voted in favour of the moving forward about the management, and some voted against it. And we said when I came in that we keep the committee model. It's a really good model in football if you can get it right. Having people voting and doing things on that is a good thing. It's checks and balances. One person deciding everything at a club is a bad thing. You want as many people involved, you want people's opinions, and that's how you make a balanced judgment. Problem with this situation is I wasn't given the opportunity to put across my point directly to the committee. I played everything by the book. They asked me to go via the chairman and the secretary because I didn't want to step on toes. I'd only just taken over as chief executive a little while ago, and I didn't want to step on toes. And I think that is why, for me, the moment that I found out the committee had met and changed their minds behind my back, I had to step back. There was no way for me at that point that I could continue with the club. That isn't to say that I wouldn't go back. It's quite clear I would go back to that club. I love that club. It's an amazing club. But I couldn't go back while the current management were in play, and I could not go back while the committee acts in the way that it does. It needs reshaping, it needs reforming. A lot of people there are having opinions but doing very little for the club in the long term, and it would need reshaping, and I can't see how that's going to happen personally. And it's disappointing because we were building something very, very good very, very quickly, and there was a lot of good to come. Now, since I left, we had a game as a club against Walcountians, which was a team that were down there with us, and we lost 4-2. When I left, basically, I refused to get any players involved in what was going on behind the scenes, but the management insisted on telling players what was going on. They made the error of telling our goalkeeper, who is a very close friend of mine, a very close friend of Sean's, a very close friend of Luke's, gets on really well with the reserve team manager. They ended up telling him what had gone on, basically, in a backwards way. And yeah, basically he was like, fine. He's kept me out of it, which is me. I didn't get him involved. He's like, but you've now told me I won't play under someone like that. I won't play under someone who has basically guaranteed starts for people, who hasn't acted in the right manner. He said, nope, I'm not going to play for you guys, unfortunately. That's just that. A couple of other players found out about it, were very unhappy. Sean obviously was then deregistered. They actually kicked Sean out of the club. Rather than him leaving, they kicked him out because he recorded the conversation where they basically had lied. Or had said that they were going to do whatever they were going to do. So they kicked him out, so he couldn't play for them. And then another centre-half couldn't play that match. The left-back couldn't play that match. Quite a few players couldn't play that match. I'm not saying why that was, but I know quite a few players couldn't play that match. We lost that game 4-2 to Walcountians, which means now, with us having 3 games left, they're 6 points ahead of us. We can't catch them. Horsley are a point behind us, 3 games in hand. Farley are 3 points behind us, 2 games in hand. Much better goal difference. Still got to play the bottom team. We're in big, big trouble. And the committee of that club have been led down the garden path. They have been led down the garden path by someone who is a friend. The management are friends to the committee, and they've done what they think is right by themselves, and I hold no grudges with that at all. I don't hold a single grudge with the committee in any way, shape or form. There are brilliant people on that committee, Tim, Neil, Gus, they're lovely, lovely guys. But the decision that was the right one to make hasn't been taken, and the club is going to suffer because of it. Because now if the club does get relegated down a division, they're going to lose a lot of players. It's going to be a massive, massive rebuild project with people that cared about the club having stepped back. The chairman's no longer there, I'm no longer there, and we genuinely care about the club. But I have nothing to gain. I'm throwing loads of money into a club to get it self-sufficient. There's nothing for me to gain by making anything anything other than what I think is the best decision for the club. Why would I do that if I've got my money going into the club? It's as simple as that. But that is why I've quit Ripley. We've stepped back. I am looking to move on. I'd love for it to be Ripley, but I highly doubt that. So I'm looking to move on with the project and what we want to do with a club that wants to grow, that wants to develop. So we're on the lookout fully. Hopefully that comes about in the next couple of weeks. We're speaking to some clubs to keep our options open, and hopefully that does come about. That's the aim. But that's why I've quit Ripley. That's why things are the way they are. I'm sorry for you guys that have been looking forward to the videos, but there will be a project back and you guys will be a part of it. It will be a club that you guys can be proud of, that you can support and buy into. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe down below. Make sure your notifications are turned on so you never miss an upload. But for now, I'm out. Peace out. I'll speak to you soon.